Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. This is the most preposterous story that I've ever seen, okay? So it's Saturday afternoon. I'm just kind of lounging around, doing whatever, getting ready for my Fox Sports radio show. We did a small recruiting update for the YouTube channel, but I was kind of just sitting around. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I see this thing come across my social media feed, and it is a report about Cooper Flagg's NIL signing, okay? Producer Matt, you can go ahead and pop up the initial tweet, because when I saw this, I was like, what the heck is going on? Okay, so Legion Hoops was one of many places that reported this aggregated story that Cooper Flagg made $28 million in NIL deals at Duke. That's per whatever, 92nd Street Y. I don't know what that is. Well, I do know what it is because I did some research. But I bring it up to say that when I saw that, I was genuinely blown away by how many people either A, didn't understand context, or two, just completely believed it as factually correct. Well, I'm here to tell you, it is the dumbest NIL story that I have ever seen. If you don't understand it's not factually, it's sort of factually correct, but not really factually correct. But it's just, I couldn't believe that people were like, oh, did you see this, Torres? This is crazy. Yeah, it's crazy because there's no context, and the context means everything, okay? So first of all, before I even get into what actually happened, let's just backtrack a little bit, okay? Because here's what you need to know. Here's what you need to know about this story. Here's what you need to know big picture, okay? So let's just pretend that there's a scenario where this Cooper Flagg thing, it could be real. I went ahead and looked it up because I was like, okay, what are actually realistic NIL numbers for college athletes? Well, I bring it up because how about this? Went back and looked it up. Caitlin Clark, when she left college, signed a $28 million 8-year deal with Nike. This is after college. Caitlin Clark signed for $3.5 million per year. Great money. I don't know if I'll ever sign a contract for $3.5 million a year, but it ain't $28 million, okay? Zion Williamson, who certainly had himself a weekend if you read the headlines. This was after his season at Duke. Signed a 5-year, $75 million deal. That's $15 million a year. That's half of what was reported with Cooper Flagg. So what happened with Cooper Flagg? How did we get this $28 million? It's so easy. And again, it like annoyed me that nobody understood the context. And the context was very, very, very simple. The context was this. The context was contracts signed while you're at Duke. The totality of them don't mean that you made all that money while you're at Duke. What do I mean by that? If you sign a 4-year, let's just easy number, 4-year, $16 million contract. That's $16 million right there. That doesn't mean you got $16 million at Duke. It means you got $4 million at Duke. And so producer Matt, you could go ahead and now pop up the other, the full quote, because basically what happened was this, is that I went back and I was like, okay, where did this come from? How did we get here? How did this become a thing? And it was from an interview that Howard Bryant, of all people, did with Bob Costas, which, by the way, I don't know if I'd be, Howard Bryant's written books on MLB. Bob Costas was last seen on MLB Network. I don't know why you would believe what they said, but finally some context into this story. The context is this, the exact quote. He had a $13 million deal with New Balance and a $15 million deal with Fanatics. That's from Howard Bryant. This is where the story came from. And so ultimately, yes, he signed 2 deals worth $28 million. By the way, I love how the fact that we're talking NIL, we're not even talking about what the collective paid him. He was in some other commercial. I forget which one. But just because he signed a $13 million deal with New Balance, and just like because he signed a $16 million deal with Fanatics, does not mean that he got $28 million at Duke. That New Balance deal is probably like a 4-year deal. So he probably made very good money, like $2.5 million per year. By the way, producer Matt brings up, that the AT&T was the commercial that he was in all March Madness. So if you're going to talk about, if you're just going to throw out numbers, why don't you include what he might have hypothetically got from the collective and what he got to do a national TV commercial that ran the entire NCAA tournament? And so listen, do I really care? No. But the number of people who tagged me on this, the number of people who thought this was real, it just boggled my mind. It just really did. Now, I will say there were two thoughts that I did have when I saw this story that I do think are worth noting, two thoughts that we talked about during the season. First of all, while I don't think it was 28 million, we've talked about this. I do think that really good college basketball players are actually making way more money than a lot of people realize. Now, I'm not talking about the dude who transferred from the Summit League who's now in the SEC that's making like $1 million in the SEC. I'm talking about like real marketable dudes. I'm talking about Cooper Flagg, AJ DeBonsa, guys like that. And it's funny because I remember being told, at some point, probably 6-8 months ago when the AJ DeBonsa recruitment heated up, like, oh yeah, he'll probably make $10 million while he's at BYU. I was like, $10 million at BYU? That's crazy. It's like, well, he's not getting all of it from BYU. He'll get, the number that I keep going back to is I was told it was about 4.5 from BYU. It was nothing close to the 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever reported. But remember, AJ DeBonsa has a deal with Red Bull. When he committed on First Take, he was wearing a Red Bull hat. When he appeared on the Aaron Torres pod a few weeks ago, he was wearing a Red Bull hat. So I solely bring it up to say that Red Bull hat he's not wearing because it's stylish. He's wearing it because Red Bull's paying him. Also, he himself has some sort of shoe deal coming up. I believe he can sign with Nike. He can sign with anybody. But so I think AJ DeBonsa, I don't think it's crazy to say he'll make $10 million while he's at BYU. And so I'm sure it was the same with Cooper Flagg. I'm sure while he was on campus, it was probably in the 8 figures. It wasn't 28 million, but 8 figures doesn't seem crazy to me. The other thing I'll say really quick, and then we'll get out of here and we'll talk a little bit about Greg Sankey's bad week, is that this story, though, did remind me of something that we talked about during the season. It was funny. During the season, if you remember, there was that big story. Cooper Flagg does this huge interview. It's like a 5,000-word profile of him from The Athletic. And there's like one line where Cooper Flagg says, yeah, I don't really want to leave Duke. I guess I have to, but I don't really want to. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said. And it became this national story. Does Cooper Flagg want to come back? Is he going to come back? What's going to happen? Da-da-da-da. And what did I say at the time? I said, well, Cooper Flagg isn't coming back. But what I said at the time, and I truly believe, is that basically, in my opinion, at some point in the next few years, like the next 5 years, I believe that we're going to see a player of Cooper Flagg's ability, maybe not as good as Cooper Flagg because he had one of the best freshman seasons ever. But I'm talking about like the number 1, number 2, number 3 pick in the draft. I believe a player like that is going to come back, and it is because of NIL. It's because of the fact that I think players are making like $10 million, $11 million, $12 million as a college basketball player, which is crazy when you factor in NIL from the school, the collective, plus endorsements. And so I said it at the time. I said, I think these shoe companies, I think if they actually had their druthers, they'd actually prefer some of these guys to stay in school, because I said, look at Cooper Flagg. Now, he has a deal with New Balance, okay? But here's my question for you. Whether it's New Balance, whether it's not, but I think more specifically if it was Nike. Let's say Cooper Flagg signed with Nike instead of New Balance. Here's my question. Is Cooper Flagg more valuable to Nike and to all his partners, whatever it would be? Fanatics, whatever. If he wants to sign with Collie Puffs, I can set it up. But is he more valuable to them on a really bad NBA team? Now, it turns out he's going to get drafted by the Mavericks, so it's a little bit different. But even on the Mavericks, third most marketable player behind AD and Kyrie. Imagine if he was going to the Wizards. Imagine if he was going to the Charlotte Hornets. Is he more valuable there, or is he more valuable at Duke, where they're on national TV 40 times a year, several high-profile games? ESPN is going to build their whole programming around him the way that they're doing it for AJ DeBonsa next year. I'm telling you, I just think we're going to get to a point soon. And I understand how, guaranteed contracts work. And I understand that, everyone's going to say, oh, you're not going to turn down $40 million to make $8 million. Like, I get it. I understand how guaranteed contracts work. But these kids are making so much money in college. And I believe that now their advertisers, the products that they endorse are now incentivized to keep them in college basketball. Because again, if a player's playing at Kentucky, if a player's playing at Kansas, UCLA, UConn, North Carolina, whoever, I actually think transparently that they are more marketable in many cases as college players than they are as pros. And then, oh, by the way, you go to the pros, you're more ready. People know you more. I think it's happening. I think it's going to happen soon. In a lot of ways, you know what it reminds me of is what we saw this year at the NBA draft deadline. I think we saw, 3-4 guys that could have been legitimate first-round picks say, I don't want to go to the NBA yet. I'm not ready. Let's not rush the process. LeBaron Philon, Tahad Pettiford, Yaxel Lendenberg. I think it's going to be pretty soon, sooner than we think. We're going to see like a top 5-ish type pick return to college. It's going to be because of NIL. Cooper Flagg did not make $28 million last year, but he made a lot.